Well, these metal shelves can really try to hurt you if you're not careful. So avoid getting injured by these wild metal shelves. It's not that hard. Let me show you step by step. First of all, don't make the mistake of assembling the legs first. And as I recall reading the directions of the first set of these I got, they tell you to put the legs together first. And I really would advise against that. First thing I'm gonna do is put a wheel on the short leg. Take that cap off. Screw my caster on. And then I find it useful to use the double lines on the legs. So you can measure if you want. These are 1 inch, and I've got my first one just below the double line, the third double line, so that's at above 11 inches. And I measured against the thing that's going underneath the shelf, which is this hydroponic tank right here. And so I know that's where I want it. So I've already got the first 3 on, and now I'm gonna put the last one on. Oh, one thing you want to check is that you have your locking casters where you want them. So I've got mine on 2 ends, and now these little black things say top with an arrow. So I go up 1, 2, 3. Here's where I want it, right here, with the top going up. And you just put it in the ballpark of where you want it, because we'll clip it into place once it's together. You take 2 of them, you put the other one next to it. It's so easy I can even do it with one hand. And then it locks into one of those grooves like that. So where you hear the pop, you've got it in the right place. And then I'm just going to insert that into the hole. Those bubbling sounds you hear in my hydroponic garden. Some tomatoes, and this shelf actually supports those tomatoes. That's why they're sitting on the floor right now, because they're sitting on a piece of agricultural netting, and that is waiting for this new shelf to go up so I can put them back in the air, and that creates kind of an arbor. Okay, so now I've got my 4 legs in, and I'm just going to lift this up into place. Oh no, look what happened. One fell out. So put enough pressure on them so that they'll stay in there for a few minutes. And once we put it up vertical, we'll really put some weight on it and get them to lock into place. Oops. Now, I told you, these things will try to kill you if you let them. And I'm doing it with one hand, so it's a little trickier. But basically, they all just popped out. And so I just pop them back in. And if you weren't careful and you had your hands around there, these things will just bite you right here, in between, anywhere where those, at the top or the bottom, the metal and the plastic, they'll bite you. All right, so now my first shelf is in, and I'm now gonna put on the second part of the legs. And that's where you probably want something to stand on to put the top pieces on. And that is a little bit of a trickier process where you really have to make sure that you have all 4 corners going on at the same time. The same thing if you tried to take one of these apart. If you want to take one of them apart and get that shelf to move, by the way, it's not easy to change the location once you set it into place. So unless you really want to take it apart again, make sure you get it right the first time. Because if I now wanted to adjust this a little bit up and down, that gets kind of difficult. Because they're all wedged in there together, and to get one of them to move, you got to get all of them to move. And they kind of wedge, if you've ever worked with these a little bit, they keep wedging against themselves. So they're really hard to separate once you put them together. You kind of have to either take them entirely apart or you have to have two people do it. So the other thing is with those plastic clips, they're kind of a one-time use. They get deformed when you put any weight on these. So I could move it now if I wanted to, but once I use these for a little bit, put weight on them and move them around, if I then try to take them apart, those plastics parts, some of them at least, I hope I didn't get a bad piece here. Look, the threading might be bad. Oh, there it goes. Thank goodness, that would be a real pain. I don't want that piece. So I actually bought an extra bag of these because once you use them one time, it's hard to use them again. So the next part I definitely can't do with one hand, because what I have to do is take the other metal shelf and lower it onto all four corners at the same time. So you got to get right in the middle and kind of have four eyes looking at it. It's really easier with two people, but then I'll just has to be perfectly straight, and you shimmy it down the whole way to where I have the next set of things installed. So this one's going to probably just match the shelf next to it, and I'll be right around here, and we'll be good to go. So I hope that helps, and see if I can get the phone here so I can continue showing the rest of the way. Get a beautiful view of the garden. That's pretty much all there is to know about these units. And like I said, I like to use the double line, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. So much down here. It's more level with my chest. Once I know where I'm putting it. I've got it just below that double line. Grab my other shelf. See, now if you're like me, you need to double check, because I did 2 of them in the wrong place. Did 2 of them on the line, on the double line, instead of below the double line. Below the double line might be a little too low, actually. Move it up 1 notch so that I'm sure I'm matched with the other one. The same level. So on the double line. It's the double line show. You probably can't even see the double lines, but there's a little grooves line engraved in these holes. There we go. So make sure you put the right side up. And again, this is a lot easier with 2 people. Tomato leaves and stuff all the time. And then once you get down to the plastic parts, you want to make sure that you do them all at the same time. And it's just right there. There we go. That's how we do it. Now I've got a third one. I'll put it right at the top, and we're done. Hope that helps.